In May, we did an episode we'll link to, which we called Playbook 2.0.
A 5-month job interview.
What a great example, right? Right, to absolutely nobody's surprise, Mark Read has been awarded the CEO role for WPP after the departure of Martin Sorrell earlier in 2018.
Yes, that's right. So this was a 5-month job interview process. On Monday, he was announced as the CEO.
Yep.
And on Tuesday, he was up front and centre on his first Analyst call.
Good timing.
And he had good news.
Yes.
So the first announcement was that net sales of WPP was up 0.7%.
They'd really eked out there a little positive spin.
They had. I mean, the first bit of positive financial news since Q1 of 2017. He talked about the success of WPP in recent pitches, and he illustrated, I think, a forensic understanding of WPP. So that kind of reassured the market, and I think almost universally it's acknowledged that Mark is probably the best person for that job. But when asked about his vision, obviously as CEO, he needs to define and articulate a clear vision for WPP. He talked about kind of radical evolution rather than kind of structural, revolution. I think, which I think was interesting.
Yeah, it's good words. And he's not him, but WPP management have made some really interesting plays across the summer. Apparently, Mark spent most of his summer in the US, which we know is a real challenge for WPP's business. He's got to get that right. And also, I think really tellingly, they moved out of what they called the Farm Street offices in London, which was a small building. I mean, the WPP management is kind of very, very lean. But just to break those ties with the Sorrell era, they seem to be making some big plays to draw a line under that and kind of move on. And at the same time, we know, you've probably seen Martin Sorrell talking a lot about the challenges faced by WPP. Maybe, he's prodding the bear. But that radical evolution, I mean, if you watched the previous episode, we did an episode a little while back where we talked about a WPP Playbook 2.0, if you remember. And we were playing around with some kind of brand logos of their agencies and, took the license to just smash some businesses around. And,
to much ridicule, I have to say.
And to a few people kind of said it was a bit daft. But that's probably what he's going to have to do. If you watch the episode if you haven't seen it before, because the main message that we had, or our thought on a WPP kind of new playbook, was to really separate lines of business. And what we said was that there should be, you could take most of the creative agencies, take the strategy and the planning out of media agencies, put those in the creative agencies. So you've got data, insight, strategy and planning and creativity in one business, and that could charge a fee, like a bit more like a consultancy business, and then leave all the media buying, the technology, and the kind of the data analysis within just Group M. So we actually advocated to get rid of all the media agency brands and aggregate them under one single business, and those are mostly transactional business, which could charge small commissions on some form of transactions or processing. So that was our kind of, that's our new gift to Mark Read, if you wish to follow that playbook. But that's what we thought would be important. And it creates, we think, what's needed, which is in creative agencies, within these holding companies, making the creative agencies more like highly trusted consultative businesses, harking a bit back to like the Mad Men era, where like the CEO's most trusted advisor was the person from the creative agency, because they knew the brand and they knew the customer and they knew the marketing strategy. I think we're maybe going back to that. These consulting creative agencies with all the insight should be the friend of the CEO now. And that's the opportunity, I think, to split these things out once and for all.
And I think as a pioneering blueprint for that, the And-Partnership, which is kind of under the guardianship of Johnny Hornby, has that model in mind, right? And it's proved, it appears to have proved very successful in working with Toyota. So this is an integrated agency solution, which is kind of governed through the creative teams, through the creative agency, where they use data to and technology to influence marketing strategy.
Yeah.
And then they bring in the relevant capabilities from the agencies to help fulfill that.
Yeah.
But what's different about this solution is that they embed these teams within the client's marketing organizations.
And that, like management consultants.
Well, absolutely, right. And if you look back at kind of Mark's initial ideas of how his vision for WPP will move forward, it's about agility. It's about delivering against client requirements, and it's about in-housing teams within client organizations. So perhaps the Hornby and partnership model or blueprint might be something that Mark may want to bring into the organisation a bit deeper.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, within the group, that looks like the model that seems to be working to those kind of rules. Yeah. So we wouldn't be surprised if we saw Mark, maybe elevate Mr. Hornby to some kind of role of catalyst for change or transformation change, because that does seem to be a viable blueprint for change for the business. Yeah. What else do we know? One of Martin Sorrell's legacies, one of the biggest legacies that he created at WPP was this idea of like bespoke teams. If you remember, like these kind of horizontal client groups that were built to the specific requirements of a particular brand. That seems to look like quite an old-fashioned and redundant model. No.
Well, I mean, you're referencing, I think, probably Greenhouse, which was the bespoke agency that was developed to look after Lloyd's, the bank, and it was very innovative at the time. And again, it was all about understanding data and using data to make real-time decisions. But again, housed within kind of a media environment. Yeah. And Group M have just retired Greenhouse. Yeah. And the Lloyd's business is now up for review, and perhaps again it's an indication that model just didn't kind of work, and it's quite a big statement, I think, to retire something that was launched with such great fanfare.
Because the idea of these bespoke agency models is that they enable the agency group to offer multiple different disciplines to that single client. Didn't work in the case of Greenhouse. I think they were trying to make media the catalyst to then maybe bring in other bits. But we hear that was incredibly expensive for Group M. They had to subsidise it for many years on behalf of the client to the tune of millions of pounds every year. And they've just decided to pull the plug. That looks like a slightly redundant model now, and wouldn't be surprised if they go back to a slightly more traditional kind of media agency arrangement. So, if that model's retired, if that kind of Sorrell model's retired, what is the new model then for Mark Read? I think the biggest test, we think, and probably actually Mark's success or failure may well be marked on this one particular thing, is the global review that's going on for Ford at the moment. And Ford, I think it's called, whatever it was called Team Detroit, then Team Blue, is an absolute classic example of a bespoke WPP client model. Yeah. It was an agency in its own right, employing thousands and thousands of people around the world, and that model is being analysed and reviewed right this moment.
Yeah. And it's something that actually, Martin Sorrell keeps referencing. I mean, he references our biggest account. I mean, I'm assuming he's speaking as a significant shareholder in WPP when he references it's our
turning
account.
up the pressure, isn't it, on Mark to have a strategy for Ford.
This is it. So the agency, the holding group's biggest account is up for review. And with that comes all of the kind of the legacy issues, and with it also comes the appetite for the other holding groups to give WPP and perhaps Mark Read a significant bloody nose in the very early stages of his tenure. Yeah,
so there's a lot of pressure on that. It's a lose-lose though, right? There has huge potential to be a lose-lose. If WPP under Mark's leadership retain Ford, there's a risk that seems like that they may have had to take that on quite punishing commercial terms. Yeah. That they are kind of settling for the status quo Ford are seen as settling for the status quo, which means that WPP is seen as the status quo, and that Ford agency model cannot be changed for some reasons. It doesn't really, if you retain it, it doesn't necessarily, it's not very positive.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be on tighter terms and somehow paints you as the status quo. If they lose the business to another agency, that's going to be seen as the new agency model and make you look like you're the old agency model. And when Mark is coming out to say he has to evolve the way and make agencies indispensable partners, you don't look like an indispensable partner if you're pushed aside by your largest global client. Absolutely. I think it's a lose-lose.
Yeah. So what would you do then?
Well, this is it. I mean, it's a really bold move, but it might be that the best strategy for Mark Read is actually to resign the Ford business. It could be an interesting way of sending the right message. It draws a line under the era of Sorrell. It allows him to say, we are not going to play by the same old legacy rules. I need to reinvent this company. Maybe Ford were asking for things which were unrealistic and we're not prepared to do that. And we want to draw a line and start afresh. It might send the right message.
Nuclear as an option, but we'll see.
Right, good week 4.
Nike.
Yeah.
And it is the 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign.
Is it 30 years?
Yeah, and they've launched their campaign with the face of a contentious American athlete, Colin Kaepernick.
Easy for you to say. Yeah.
Yes, but it's just brilliant. It's contentious, it's provocative, it's just brilliant advertising.
Classic.
And you can't ignore it. And not only has it been hugely recognised and discussed, but it's also generated in excess of $50 million worth of earned media value
Already, and that will rocket. That will be 500 million next week probably.
So well done, Nike. Bad week for?
Bad week. Well, it's a bad week for bad pitches. And the reason I say that is because we might have mentioned on a previous episode, but we are in partnership with the 4As, which is the US trade body representing agencies who've had a tough time kind of on a number of different pitches over the last few years. We've launched a piece of research which is in market at the moment. We will link down below. If you work in any kind of new biz or management role of a US agency, please get involved. The objective of the research, which I think closes on Wednesday the 12th of September, so getting quick, is to look at where the pain points are in a typical pitch and think of ways that we can improve the process. The idea being better process, agencies compete better for the advertiser. Yeah. So link down below, and I'm sure we'll be coming back in a few weeks with some results on that. Okay, question of the week. Should Mark Read resign the Ford account?
Yes, no, whatever.
Excellent. Okay, well that's your media snack for this week. Please subscribe and give us a like if you want to be alerted to future episodes. But that's it for now.
See you next time.
Right. This feels like a long time since I've done this. It's quite weird. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Yes.